Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. I am Jay from Jade Productions, joined today by T from Jade Productions as well, and today we're going to be looking at the Lion L. Johnson, or as some people in the Long War Discord server has suggested calling him, Lion L. Lorax. But we'll get into that in a moment, as we take a dive through his newly shown off 40k rules, the Lion's Long War rule set, and then we're going to compare him both to Gilliman's Long War rule set and his 9th edition rule set, and have a little talk about the Lion. Now, T, you know nothing about the Lion, don't you?
Hello, Jay. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I never really cared much about the Lion. I know he's the Primarch of the Dark Angels, and he's been stuck in a rock since the days of the Horus Heresy, but I never really cared enough to find out more.
Well, quick breakdown on the Lion. So the Lion, as you know, is a Primarch of the First Legion, Dark Angels. The Dark Angels Legion was responsible for dealing with the most, extreme stuff, hence their propensity for secrecy, even during the Horus Heresy. Because, dealing with a lot of forbidden technology, a lot of dangerous knowledge. They were the people sent to exterminate the real dark horrors of the universe. And so the Lion was cast to the world of Caliban through the Warp, where he grew up feral for many years, fighting the chaosy demonic monster that sort of inhabited Caliban. So he was quite the monster slayer, until he was found by the locals, who all, adopted a sort of knight mentality, and was trained and raised as a knight, eventually, and that influenced him. And so the idea behind the Lion is that he's this knightly duelist and a monster slayer, and one real mean motherfracker, like one of the best Primarchs in terms of fighting skill amongst the Primarchs, able to go toe-to-toe with the best of them. Can fight evenly, and, according to some people, depending on how you view certain things, potentially even better than some of the other Primarchs. So, that is his skill and renown, to the point where, his legion during the Horus Heresy was one of the most successful loyalist legions under his command, because he's also quite tactical and very much a strategist. He was almost made War Master in Horus's place, or at least in his head he was. Well,
there are a few Primarchs that thought that as well.
Yeah, so he's a strategist, he's a monster hunter, and he's a duelist. And his legion successfully shattered the Night Lords at Tharmas, and even captured and brought the Night Lord to heel during the Heresy. Until, unfortunately, after the Heresy, his legion was shattered in a civil war, during which he was kind of rendered unconscious after a big psychic blew out with his adoptive human daddy and rendered comatose for a couple millennia.
Right, okay. So how did he deal with not being chosen as the War Master? Because I know some of the aspirants dealt with it better than others,
The Lion encompasses the concept of duty and loyalty, so he took it okay-ish, but there was a reason why Horus sent him to the other side of the galaxy.
Didn't trust him?
Sent him to the far, far galactic... Well, he was a huge threat. But that's going into heresy lore. So, the Lion has returned, and Games Workshop have dropped his rules. The Long War have previewed their rules and put out an updated version today. And so we're gonna look at them, and we're gonna see just what we think, does the Lion rule set in both editions live up to the Lion in the lore?
How has he come back in the 40k lore? I've seen a lot of memes saying that he just was sleeping and woke up suddenly.
Look, I'll let you know when I read the book. I'll let you know when I read the book. Because the book is not out yet. Or at least it's not out yet in Australia. The Lion has actually been delayed here in Australia. He's available now for pre-order, not in Australia for another month. Because, screw us colonists.
That whole release got delayed, I saw.
Yeah, so, anyway. And also, I will point out, just a quick addendum as we look into some of these rules. Before we look into it, the only existing rule set for official rule set for the Lion exists in 30k. And now many people will argue all sorts of things about 30k first and second edition. I'll tell you this. The Lion is a monster in that game. Like, as a Primarch, he is one of the best. Like, absolute fighting machines. So I'm just going to put that out there. So, let's
He
take
also doesn't have a shield in those, if I'm remembering right.
No, his war gear, all 30k and 40k Primarchs, all their war gear is different, because all that war gear is gone. In fact, Primarchs have so much war gear, they change it out fairly regularly, even between time periods, between, like, Crusade and Heresy era, and post. So,
Yeah.
it's also why it's impossible to, like, add Vulcan into the Long War, because, like, he just changes his gear every time you see him. Happens when you
I mean, he's always got that hammer. So.
No, he changes his hammer out.
Only because it keeps getting lost.
Anyway, so let's take a look here at the Lion's 9th edition rule set. So,
Alright.
So we have Lionel Johnson. He is a Lord of War slot, and he is 16 power level. He's 320 points.
Okay.
Lionel Johnson stalks from mist-wreathed shadow realms like an ancient questing knight, hunting down the galaxy's terrors. With the immense blade Fealty, the Primarch cleaves apart the most heinous of monstrosities, while the Emperor's shield erupts in blazes of light and force in response to his foes' savage blows.
Rightio.
Man, you guys really should have made that longer and with more full stops. But hey, I guess that is kind of it has a sort of rhyming scheme. But that's not what we're here to judge. So, the Lionel Johnson has a movement of 8 inches, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 6, toughness 6. It's, pretty normal, I think, for Primarch stats.
Yes, they look like pretty standard Primarch stats.
9
wounds are
wounds.
a little high, aren't they?
Same number of wounds as Gilliman in 9th edition, I'm pretty sure. Gilliman's 8 or 9, I believe, as well.
Okay.
Gilliman, however, is only like 6, 7 attacks.
Oh, geez, he's got 10 attacks.
Yep, he's got 10
And
attacks.
leadership 11. I think this is the first time I've seen a leadership above 10.
I think that this is the first time I've seen a leadership above 10 in... Oh, no, Custodes in 9th edition. They're all like leadership 11.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're crazy unbreakable, but that's Custodes. They're not a real army. Fight me. Alright, and then he's got a 2+ save, because, it's a Primarch wearing armor. It's nice armor.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Of course.
Yeah. My opinion...
You'd expect that.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of expect that. I mean, in the Heresy, most Primarchs are 2-up, 4-ups. So
Yeah, I'd say the only thing unexpected about his base stats there is the attacks number. Like, that's a lot of attacks.
even by 9th edition, that's a lot of attacks in my mind. What stands out to me is, and I think this is a design thing from my mind, because they have no way of representing beyond simply a 2+, how good he is at fighting, they just compensated by giving him extra attacks.
Yeah, I guess that's what you do in addition, where it's quantity over quality of attacks.
Yeah, because they can't get any better than a 2+ in their system. So, and then even with the rerolls, there's 10 attacks. I'd like to imagine if his weapon skill is 6 at a 2+, like it was in the old edition. So every attack beyond that is meant to represent a point of weapon skill. So that's so clearly they value the Lion as quite a fighter. And then he's got Fealty and Arma Luminous.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
We know Fealty's the sword from the brief description there, but
Yeah.
is Armor Luminous supposed to be his armor or his shield?
The Arma Luminous from the profile here is a combi bolt plasma pistol?
Oh, that's his weapon, right.
It's a little sidearm, yeah.
So, yeah, okay, he's got a Primarch issue weapon, which is a pistol that is more powerful than the average pistol.
Yeah, it's a combi plasma by the looks, so...
Yeah.
Strength 8, AP minus 4, plasma 2 damage. 12-inch
Yeah, I mean,
range.
it's a pistol, so like, but it's a Primarch pistol, so it'll probably kill at least one model in whatever squad you shoot it at.
Yeah. 2 damage isn't really meta anymore. It's more just like a every weapon should probably just be 2 damage in the way that the meta currently is in ninth edition. I'm just gonna be
You
real
know,
with you.
that's what happens when you just scale numbers up to try and balance things.
Yeah, it's a bit of a design issue they've got going there, which is why 10th edition. It's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how they address it. They really need to scale back their damage and wounds profiles. They like anyway.
Hey, so this is his ninth edition profile.
This is his ninth edition profile, and yes, like this is only going to be like valid for like the next 3 months because 10th edition will drop in about June, July.
Wow, why even bother? Like, why not just hold him off and release him for 10th edition?
Both you and I were there for the Gathering Storm, man. Like, we remember this. It was the same with Gilliman. Like, Gilliman had even less time. Gilliman had a month.
That's true, yeah, because he was the end of the Gathering Storm.
He was the end of the Gathering Storm, and they went straight into the next edition. So, like, I think there was... it was longer than a month. I'm exaggerating. It was 3 months. Well, yeah, 2 to 3 months, because they had their 8th edition build-up, of course. Because I remember that.
Yeah.
And then, so we've got his sword, Fealty.
Ability, so what, you've got the,
You got two profiles.
The 2 profiles, as seems to be standard for all monster creatures in 8th to 9th edition.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but it is what it is.
So, yeah, he's got his big strike and his I want to kill all the little dudes strike.
Yeah, so his strike is +4, AP -5, because, obviously you really weren't going to get it. That's just at that point you might as well just say no one gets a save against this. Invul save.
Yeah, that is invul save or die.
Yeah.
Especially with 4 damage, that'll kill most characters, I believe.
No. Most characters are about 6 wounds. 5 to 6 wounds.
Oh jeez, they've really scaled them up since the last time I played.
4 wounds on smaller characters. So yeah, I mean, and considering a lot of things have like -1 to wound them, like so that's a dead that's a dead that'll kill a Space Marine twice over. That'll kill.
Well, given he's got 10 attacks with it, that'll kill a whole Space Marine squad.
That'll
easily.
kill a whole Space Marine squad by itself, which this is my problem with 9th edition,
Right.
a little bit in terms of design. That right there is suitably sufficient, but because everything is super reliable in 9th edition, to the point where, the dice almost don't matter, you then go down to the sweep. Now guys, I don't mean to be super negative on 9th edition, I am very critical of it, but we are approaching this from a game design standpoint. It doesn't have some of the greatest design, principles in it. Now, that doesn't mean we hate 9th edition. 9th edition is perfectly fine for what it does. It just has a fair amount of imbalance, just like any 40k system, including the Long War. Just putting that out there. So, before we continue, you got the sweep.
Yeah, which is your standard, make twice the number of attacks.
Yeah, so with 10 attacks,
A decent rend and 2 damage, so that's 20 attacks.
and that's still killing a Marine per swing, right? It's not going to kill a Death Guard like Plague Marine per swing, but...
Yeah, but with 20 attacks, you're still going to wipe out a 10-man Death Guard squad with it.
Yep. That's something.
Because they feel no pains, they're going to fail at least one
Well, they don't have feel no pains no more.
Oh, don't they?
No, instead they just reduce the damage by 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, so now you need 2 of those strikes to kill a Plague Marine. But at -3, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, you're gonna get a shit ton of wounds through.
Yeah, it's still probably more than enough to kill a 10-man squad.
He hits his strength 10 with that strike. That's pretty bonkers.
Yep, so he kills stuff, yep.
Okay, yeah, he kills it. He kills it dead. That
Good on him. He's not very unique or original. Like
no.
I've seen most other monsters that have similar things.
Unfortunately, against like big characters and a lot of the stuff in the game that like you can only deal like 3-4 wounds to it per phase. Oh, he's gonna not have a fun time. All those attacks just become meaningless in the face of that. Because like,
Yeah, well,
one poke, I've done my damage limit. End of story.
yeah, it's a pretty dumb mechanic in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. It has its place. It was implemented for a reason. It was designed to solve a design problem on keeping things like, you know, the lion and, you know, those super uber models. It was basically built as a replacement, like, because the design principle behind it is, alright, this thing dies too fast. Alright, so in the old editions, 7th and beyond, and earlier, you had Eternal Warrior as the design mechanic implemented to prevent that. And so it just became a new form of Eternal Warrior that was a little bit easier manipulated.
I mean, kind of, because well, Eternal Warrior just stopped you from being instant death. It didn't stop you from dying if you took 20 strength 10 hits.
Well, that's the thing, right? And so in ninth edition, the 20 strength, you know, 10 hits at minus 5/4 damage, that basically is instant death, because they're all hitting on 2-ups and they're all going to wound on 3-ups. Right? So that's
all that rule does is now makes 9 of your 10 attacks pretty much pointless.
exactly. So that rule is so I'm going to say it. He's not built for fighting those other big monstrous characters. He's not built for fighting those. I'm not.
Well, who is? Like, unless there were rules that override that rule.
No, most of those units you have to deal with by picking them apart and like having something that can damage them in each phase. Now they're not. You can't. You can deal with them, but let's just say he's probably not going to outfight Gazgul, who has that rule.
Well, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he's not going to outfight Gazgul. He's not going to outfight the... I don't think the Avatar of Cain has it, but he's not going to outfight the Necron dude, Shroud, Brain, Catan.
Oh, the Void Dragon.
The Void Dragon is one of them, but he's not actually really good. It's the Knight... goddammit. The embodiment of death, not the Deceiver.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Then the Nightbringer. There we go. I knew it was Night something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He's not gonna... He'll outfight them, but he won't outfight them. Because he's got a 2-up save, and now let's go into his abilities where his, like, defensive stuff is, right?
Yeah, so he's got his Angels of Death.
Yep.
He's got his Forest Walk.
Yep, this is why a lot of people are... I'm seeing memes of Lion L. Lorax. He's angry Lorax coming out of the forests to kill things, because, like, he literally walks out from, like, forests that just appear.
What if you're on a desert world?
Woods just appear, man.
40k has gotten even more silly over the years.
I used to tell people it was, you know, it was silly, but you took it seriously because it took itself seriously. Sometimes I question that. I can't say that to people anymore, but hey.
No.
Look, I'm just gonna say it's psychic shenanigans because all Primarchs are latent psychers.
Apparently. I mean,
They
I
are.
didn't think they were, but
They are.
apparently they are.
No, they're all latent psychers. I can prove it to you too.
I can prove it mathematically. So is this an outflank or is it just a deep strike?
So you set up, this is just a deep strike.
Deep strike. Oh, and he gets to reroll charge rolls, so...
It's a deep strike with reroll charges. Holy shit.
Cool. So they just want him to get in there and wreck face straight away. Like...
I mean, he's 320 points. I mean, if he didn't do that in this edition, where he's likely to just die to a single round of shooting, I would say they're even more crazy than they normally are.
But what about his Emperor's Shield, his actual defensive ability?
Right, so
he's got a 4-up invul.
4+ invul. And anytime someone makes an attack against him, a melee attack, if it's an unmodified 6, they take a mortal wound back to a maximum of 3.
Oh, yeah,
Per
so
phase.
He can inflict up to 3 mortal wounds back if he gets lucky and rolls 6s on his invul save.
Yeah. So if he rolls on his invul save, so
So, not likely to happen very often.
I gotta say, for a shield wielded by the Emperor, that's real disappointing. But then again, it's hard to convey the power of like equipment in Ninth Edition. I think.
They got rid of having 3+ invul saves, didn't they?
Yeah, 3+ invul saves are gone ski.
They don't
I
exist
can't think
anymore.
of a single way in Ninth Edition. Now, bear in mind, I haven't read the Demons Codex. I haven't read a few of. Haven't read Demons. Haven't read Grey Knights, and I haven't read World Eaters. But as far as I know, there's no way to get a 3+ save that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah. He's got Martial Exemplar, so he fights first, so he's initiative 10. So he fights first. Alright, cool. He's got his Primarch of the First Legion aura, which is a 6-inch range, yep.
Reroll ones to hit and to wound. So it's literally just the captain ability.
It affects himself as well.
Dark Angel's core and characters, right? So
yep, and he is a Dark Angel's character. Yep.
So it's basically back to the old 8th edition version of that ability.
Which I think even Gilliman's got nerfed, but I don't remember Gilliman's 9th edition profile off the top of my head. I only remember Stat Block and his weapons. But I do know.
I hate aura abilities.
I don't mind them. I think they work okay in terms of the context of the system and the design. I feel.
Yeah, but they went overboard with them.
My issue with auras is that every aura was the same.
My issue with them was that they had too many, and like it was hard to keep track sometimes of who was affected by which aura. Especially since each aura had like different rules, like some of them were wholly within, some of them were just within.
Yeah, and then and so what 9th edition did is so that's 8th edition, right? And then in 9th edition it literally boiled down to different name, same rule.
Yeah.
So at this point, it might as well be a universal special rule. So his Primarch of the First Legion is a little different because it's wound rolls and hit rolls on one. So he's very, as I said, the whole point of 9th edition is that everything is super reliable to the point where dice almost don't matter. And this is what I'm saying, right? He's stupid levels of reliable to the point where you can mathematically tell me what he's going to roll and I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't even ask you to roll dice sometimes. Like if we're trying to play in a tournament or competitive setting where we're trying to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, well, what's the point? Like, so he got weapon skill and ballistic skill 2+, and he gets to reroll ones all the time, so he's never going to miss any of his attacks ever.
He'll miss like I think he misses like mathematically, it's like 1 to 2% of the time.
Yeah, it's like a really low percentage because he has to roll one twice in a row.
Yeah. Since I just got back from work, my brain isn't working on math, so I'll leave that up to you. I love this, though. He's got Watchers in the Dark.
Twice per phase, he can attempt to deny the Witch, as if he was a Psyker, and he gets to re-roll it against a Chaos Psyker.
I mean, he is a Psyker, but let's not go there. Because that's already a contentious topic with you. Yeah. Well, I like that. I mean, the Watchers on his base, do stuff. And the Watchers have always been like a war gear in older editions, right? Like, you literally took them and they were little tokens that you spent to deny.
Oh, is that what they call those little...
Yeah, the little midgets. Little midgets carrying their stuff, yeah.
Around.
Yeah,
right.
Don't look under their robes. They're horrifying.
Are they?
Yeah, they're more of 40K's fucked up shit we do to dead things.
Right. I thought they were just like cherubs or something.
They're
with cloaks.
They're a little bit more mysterious than that. They're not quite... They're hard to explain because they're never really explained, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I've never seen any lore on them, so...
Because the lore on them is... It's always, like, mysterious and weird. But basically, run around the rock basically servicing it, and like, yeah, they're odd things. I don't think I've never read anywhere that confirms what they are. I still think they're demons of the Emperor.
I mean, you could tell me that they are literal children that they've forced into slavery to help them, and I would believe you.
Yeah, but then that opens it up to so many jokes that I don't want to hear you make. So his warlord trait.
Here we go, because he doesn't have enough power already. What does this do?
No hiding from the Watchers. In your opponent's movement phase, select one friendly Dark Angels unit within 9 inches of this warlord. Okay. Until the end of the turn, that unit is eligible to perform heroic interventions as if it were a character, and it can perform heroic interventions if it was within 6 inches horizontally or 5 inches vertically of an enemy unit. When performing a heroic intervention, you can move each molded. Okay, so basically, he gets to give a unit the Space Wolves core ability from being Space Wolves.
How important is heroic intervention in ninth?
In my experience, not really. It's more a gotcha tool than anything.
Right.
Like for Space Wolves, it typically doesn't work except for as a gotcha moment. For that one time where you're like, haha, you fell for my trap card, stratagem to make my heroic intervention longer.
Right. Remember in 8th, it wasn't really that applicable most of the time.
No, and it's not super applicable in 9th edition from my experience.
Okay, so his warlord trait is more of a non-ability than anything. Not going to come up often.
I mean, it's okay, because it's a little bit more unpredictable, so it more creates a, oh, not only do I have to stay away from the lion, I gotta stay away from dudes within 9 inches of him. And not only that, I gotta stay 6 inches away from dudes within 9 inches of him. It's more a denial bubble, really. It's a don't charge me, bro bubble. So it's very useful in that respect. Heroic interventions, and that's what they're typically used for. Just denial, rather than an actual ability that will come up and be used. It's more a
Right. It's one of those things that you don't want to be on the receiving end on, so if you're aware of it, you just won't put yourself in the situation where it can be used against you.
Yeah, because if used against you correctly, you'll have multiple enemies dogpiling you, and then it can turn a really favorable engagement into like something you don't want to fight. So yeah, it's a bit of an rule, but you know, it's a thing. And then he's inner circle. That's great.
Well, I would hope so, since he is the Primarch.
If he's inner circle, does he get the inner circle rule?
I don't know.
I have to go look that up after this video is done. Oh man. So, I know Deathwing have a rule, and I don't know what gives it to them, whether or not it's a Deathwing specific rule, or whether it's the inner circle keyword associated with it. Since, I have to check that. Because if he's getting the benefit of Deathwing in 9th edition, where he can only be wounded on unmodified 4-ups, that is crazy.
You know, that certainly adds to his toughness, so...
Alright. So, before we move on to the Long War version, 320 points, absolute murder machine, potentially really durable if he does get that. But if he doesn't, he's actually not that durable. So, I think he's very much by 9th edition standards, a bit of a glass cannon.
Yeah, I guess it seems pretty balanced, maybe.
I mean, okay, does he live up to the lore? Is he a monster hunter? Yeah, he's gonna fuck monsters up. He's gonna fuck big things up, most of the time.
Except for the ones that really matter the most, because...
Except for the ones that matter the most.
Because they have rules that stop them from being fucked up.
Alright, how good is he at dueling? Well, doesn't matter in 9th edition. So, you know.
Well, by ninth edition standards, I guess you'd say he's good at it because he gets to fight first, and that's pretty much all that matters in
yeah.
8th, 9th.
Well, he's fighting first with a shit ton attack, so yeah.
So he's good at it purely by that standard alone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think he represents a. It's representing the lion in a very different way, to like how he, because it's a completely different rule system, and so like it's not really compatible with representing how good he actually is in the lore about what he does. But I think as like best applicable representation, yeah, he's a fairly adequate beatstick.
Yeah, well, he will definitely murder stuff up and be difficult to put down. So
Yeah. Well,
is he worth 320 points of something else though? That's the question.
Oh well, there's always that question, right? And like we can't answer that question. We can only speculate because like time will tell on that one. But you know, people aren't going to get to use him very much. Like
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, he's 320 points. Will he make that back?
and I mean, he's a Lord of War, right? Means he's competing with everything else in the Lord of War slot for Marines.
Marines don't have much in the Lord of War slot, do they?
Not unless you go to Forge World, then it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, he can be I think he's he adequately, if in a roundabout way, represents the lion in the lore.
Yeah, well, I
With
mean,
the exception of being the literal fucking Lorax who just comes out of magical forests to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Aside from the fact that you could field 6 Baneblades against him and they probably wouldn't hurt him before he got close enough to smash them all.
I mean, yeah, he's gonna kill a Baneblade in a turn.
Oh, easily.
Killed 2 Baneblades in a turn.
He'll kill as many Baneblades as he can get into base contact with.
Let's see, he deals 4 to what? Baneblades are like 22, 24 wounds? 2 up save?
Well, their save doesn't matter. It's really just a matter of can he do enough wounds.
They're Armor of Contempt, so -1 AP. So if he goes with his strike profile, like, he's wounding it on 3s because it's toughness 9. He's AP -4, so he's still ignoring its save, and he's 4 damage. 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
So he'd need about 6 of his attacks to go through to wipe out 1.
6 of his attacks to go through, yeah. I mean, that's still stupid, but, you know.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the point I was coming to. I'm assuming Baneblades still cost around the same points, like they're also around that 300 mark.
Honestly, I've seen them fielded once in 9th edition, and I wasn't paying attention because it just kind of exploded real quick.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, he can pop out next to a Baneblade, charge it. He has no fear of dying to its Overwatch. Kill it, you know.
Guardsman might be able to plink, so with its Overwatch, I mean, it could plink like, you know, maybe 2-3 wounds off.
If they're lucky.
If they're lucky. I mean, Guardsmen have some stratagems that make their Overwatch pretty intimidating sometimes.
But then in reverse, that 320 points of Baneblade, if it got a full shooting attack at him, it's not going to kill him.
No, the Baneblade is cheaper than him, I believe. But I can't confirm that right now. I don't have the Guard Codex right here in front of me. So, with that, let us go on to the Long War version of Lionel Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we ready for this? Here we go.
You zoom in. I can't read that.
I'm gonna have to. Let me see this.
At the top of you.
Yeah. Let me try that. Is that better?
One more stage.
How's that?
There we go. Yep, now I can read it.
All right.
So we've got him at 290 points. Only
Yep.
30 points cheaper.
30 points cheaper.
6-inch movement.
6-inch move, because he's infantry, whereas 9th edition is a monster.
Weapon skill 8. That sounds appropriate. Ballistic skill 6. Strength toughness 6. 6 wounds, 6 attacks. Initiative 6, so pretty much what you'd expect from Primarch stats.
Yep, 6 across
2
the
up
board.
save. And you've also got him at leadership 11.
Yeah, he's, yeah.
Is that something that all your Primarchs have?
Yes, well, Gilman's leadership 12.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a minute. Because we're going to compare this version of the Long War version of Lion to Long War version of Gilman.
Yeah. Armor of Caliban, Shield of the Emperor, Fealty, Armor Luminous, Watcher in the Dark.
Yep. So...
Allegiance, Dark Angels, Master of Command, Regen, Relentless, 6 up, Feel No Pain. Last Stand, I don't remember what that does.
So Last Stand, we'll go through these special rules real quickly. So, Allegiance, Dark Angels. So, he has... That basically replaces his standard Space Marine stuff, which is why you don't see it listed here, with Fear 2 and Stubborn.
Okay, so he reduces enemy leadership.
And in combat, within 3 inches of him, yeah, by 2.
And his own leadership doesn't get reduced.
Nope.
So he's never failing any leadership test.
Very small odds. Master of the Command is just a rule that says you only get one of him. Or you can't have him and a chapter master sharing command, basically.
Yep.
Regeneration, he gets 1 wound back per round, basically.
Yeah.
He's relentless, so he can, move, shoot, charge, no restrictions on that. Feel No Pain 6 up. So Last Stand is a rule that, in the combat phase, if you would be slain, you still get to fight at your initiative step.
Okay.
So if someone somehow manages to kill him before initiative step 6, he still gets to fight. Then he's removed.
Nasty.
And then he's got Primarch of the First, the Lion of Caliban, and of course you can only have 1 in your army.
And you give him an outflank, which I assume is to replace that forest weirdness.
Yeah, well, it's another way of representing the foresty, the Lionel Lorax.
That seems a lot more lore-friendly, because, that represents being a good tactical genius. And, outflanking.
So, we'll go into his appendix first, before we look at the Warlord traits. We'll look at that last. So...
Yeah, so this is what his gear does.
Yes.
Armor of Caliban, 2 up armor and 4 up invul. Yep.
Fairly solid. Shield of the Emperor. When an enemy model resolves an attack against a model with this war gear, they have -1 to their weapon skill characteristic. So, yeah.
Yeah, that can make him harder to hit.
It's going to make him harder to hit, which is going to be pretty neat. He's already, super good in combat here, and we'll see why in a moment.
Yeah.
And then each time he's targeted by psychic power or a weapon with the psychic weapon special rule, on a 3+, it has no effect on him whatsoever and is negated.
Yep.
Because it's the shield of the fucking Emperor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not Emperor Karl Franz, because even though the shield looks like it comes straight from Warhammer Fantasy...
I wasn't going to say anything, but yes, it does.
Not the shield of Karl Franz, the shield of the Emperor of Mankind.
The shield looks way too small to be the shield that the Emperor would use.
And not touching that. That's a lore black hole that we don't want to get into in this video.
Not to mention that the most famous depiction of the Emperor has him with a sword and a power fist.
Yeah, it's a fist because it parallels Horus with his talon, his claw, and the Worldbreaker, the mace.
Yeah, so it's like, does the Emperor even really use the shield? I
Look,
guess not. That's why Lion has it.
Look, I like this idea that they're going with in, like, when they're bringing back Loyalist Primarchs of, oh yeah, every Loyalist Primarch has a piece of Daddy's, like, treasury.
Yeah.
So when Jagati Khan comes back, he'll have...
He'll have the Emperor's bike.
He'll have the Emperor's bike.
The Emperor's favorite bicycle.
The Emperor's favorite bike, and yeah. And so when you know, let's say Lehman Russ comes back, he'll have like the Emperor's axe or something.
Oh, the Emperor's favorite pet dog.
That would be Lehman Russ himself. So yep. Then we got Primarch of the First. So he's got to be your warlord. All Dark Angels that draw visibility to him get to reroll Pinning and Panic. This is fairly standard for Primarchs.
Yep, it's definitely better. Well, not better, but more balanced than just saying they automatically pass it, because at least there's some chance of failure.
Yeah, and they're not using his leadership. They're still using their leadership 7 to 8.
Yeah.
He gains the Ravenwing and Deathwing abilities from the Dark Angel's Allegiance, even though he doesn't have the Deathwing or Ravenwing keywords.
Okay, and what do those do?
So, when we go... I'm just going to flick us back here. So, what happens is, so Ravenwing gets Scout and Skilled Rider. So Skilled Rider is a cover
Pointless
save.
for him.
Skilled Rider is a... It's not pointless, still affects him. It's a cover save if he advances.
Oh, so he doesn't actually have to be riding something to benefit from it.
No, not technically. The Scout is a 6-inch move, which is, you know, it's another way to get him up the board.
Yeah.
The Deathwing one, though, is Deathwing get +1 to their weapon skill when they attack with Power Swords, Relic Blades, Calibanite Blades, Tyrannic Great Blades, or Chainswords. And they also get preferred enemy characters.
Yeah, that's definitely a duelist thing.
Yeah. So he gets those rules even though he doesn't have those keywords. And then he ignores instant death, and instead instant death wounds inflict D3 wounds to him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So a lot of that's pretty standard. The Lion of Caliban is his unique special rule. He gets +1 to all wound rolls in the combat phase against enemy units that have 4 or more wounds.
Okay, so against strong opponents or worthy opponents, he fights even harder.
Yeah, so things with 4 or more wounds in the Long War, that's actually going to be like named characters.
Yeah, I was going to say that'll be named characters and monsters for the most part.
Named characters, dreadnoughts, carnifexes, like monsters bigger than that. That's going to be like the big stuff, because like, yeah.
Yeah. I think, the smallest non-unique thing would be like a sentinel or something. You get to reroll wounds on.
That's +1 to wound.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like +1 to wound on, so... How dare you kick me with your vehicle?
Yeah, the Sentinel's 4 wounds, so yeah. So,
Amusing.
But it scales up better than it scales down.
Yeah.
Alright, so then we got the Armor Luminous. So here it's a pistol again.
But 3 shots for the bolt and 2 shots for the plasma.
Yes.
Although the plasma is limited to 3 shots per game.
3 shots per game, and it's two shots on it. And no, it's Strength 8 AP2, no gets hot. And Mastercrafted for rerolling one of those, so...
Okay, yep, so he's got a special plasma weapon that doesn't get hot and is a bit stronger than average.
Yep. And then there's Fealty.
His bolt pistol is just a bolt pistol with Mastercrafted.
Yeah, it's just a bolt pistol with 3 shots.
But 3 shots, so, you know, you won't expect the bolt pistol to do much, but 3 shots is still enough to contribute to plinking smaller things.
On Long War, pistols, you can advance and still shoot with them. And then he's
I guess it's handy
relentless,
for
so
him.
he can then charge. So he's still getting to do something every phase.
Yeah.
So yeah, lets him. Pistol weapons are really good at letting melee units, be mobile while still putting some damage down range.
Yeah.
And then of course he can fire that point blank in the shooting phase once he's in combat.
Yeah.
Point blank plasma pistols to the face of someone. That's nasty.
But can you still do that in ninth? You could do it in 8th.
You can do that in 9th edition still, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, you can still do that in 9th edition.
Not that it really ever came up much towards the end of 8th, because combat usually just involved one side being wiped entirely.
That's pretty much been my experience with 9th edition. That's why I almost forgot it exists, because, yeah, combats don't last more than one person attacking most of the time. They can. I mean, I'm being very general based on my experience. Like, I've seen combats drag on forever, and some combats that just end instantly. That's always been the case with melee, right? Melee is always a gamble.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we've got Filthy, which
So it's strength
is
6.
a melee strength user.
So it's strength 6 and 6 attacks.
AP1. Mastercrafted for that reroll to hit.
Precision strike.
So, yeah, he's a duelist. He can choose where he wants his attacks to go. Parry and Master Sword are new rules.
Yes, so parry is something on a lot of Dark Angel's Calibanite weapons. And they, so a model equipped with this weapon has a Feel No Pain 4+ only during the combat phase against wounds inflicted by melee weapons.
That means if you shot him in the face with like plasma pistols in the melee phase, he wouldn't get the Feel No Pain 4+.
No, well, you're shooting them in the You're shooting them in the shooting phase.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yes, that's not too broken then.
So yeah, he doesn't get it against, like, if you were to like have a field of squad and you're just gonna like point blank shoot him. Yeah, he won't get it against that. It's only against melee weapons in the combat phase. So.
And counts as a power sword for Deathwing special rule. I figured you'd put something like that in there.
Which means he actually goes up to weapon skill 9.
Yikes! So only what Lilith and Dark Elder characters can really stand up against that.
He's fighting on an even foot with greater demons of Khorne. Lilith Hesprex and Avatars of Cain.
Asdrubale, Vecht.
Nah, Vect isn't that good.
He isn't?
Nah. Vect's more a shooty character.
Fair.
Vect's also more of a I screw with your entire army character. That's Dark Elder.
Yeah.
Nothing behaves as it should.
Yeah, so yeah, that puts him like in the top percentile.
Yeah.
Of a very low number of characters and only characters
So
can get that high.
It's like at weapon skill 8, he'll be fighting greater demons of Khorne on a 4+. With weapon skill 9, he's hitting them on 3+.
Yeah. What, like only the named greater demons could actually...
No, that's a standard bloodthirster. His weapon skill 8.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
The
the standard bloodthirster is 8, so I'm guessing, like, what's that named one called? With the 2 axes?
Scarbrand.
Scarbrand would be 9, I assume, because he's a special named one.
Scarbrand's 8, but he has a shit ton of attacks.
Oh, okay.
Like, potentially like 16 attacks, depending on how wounded he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But...
Well, I mean, because of how Longwell works, even those guys that are still 1 or 2 lower than him, they're still hitting on 4s, so that's...
Yeah. And that's
not as big a deal as that would be in Horus Heresy 2.0.
No, that would be huge in 2.0. On top of that, before we go look at his Warlord traits, he's infantry. That's actually a big deal. He can join units.
Yeah, that is a big deal.
So, like, you can actually have a bodyguard unit accompany him. Blade Guard veterans,
Mm,
Terminators,
I
Deathwing
feel like
Knights.
I feel like that might make this version of him a bit too easy to Death Star and just never die.
I mean, it's going to be a lot of points investment to do those, though. Your average game is like 1,500 points, and doing that would take almost 500 points.
Yeah, but if it's an unkillable Death Star with this much killing output, you're gonna do that every day of the week.
Well, the thing is, it's not gonna be unkillable.
Granted, that won't help you in terms of taking objectives, but
Like, sure, it's powerful, but I don't believe it's actually that, like, it's not unkillable. I mean, you filled them with Terminators, congratulations. You just made a giant target magnet, right? And you kind of gimped the Terminators into, coming with this guy. Your Blade Guard veterans are an okay, shield to go with him, but they're expensive, and you'll chew through them, because, yeah, they're 2-wound Space Marines, but Plasma and Instant Death. Instant Death is a huge thing. If he could join units in 9th edition, he'd be, I would say, it would be unkillable. But since Instant Death is a thing, I would say, it's probably a little bit more balanced here to let him have a bodyguard.
well, he's not going to get instant death. Well, his bodyguard will need at least melter guns or something strength 8 going at them.
That's not too hard to do.
Well, that's true. I suppose like a friggin' Lehman Russ cannon could start instant deathing his bodyguard easily enough.
Good Lehman Russ cannon, and remember, Lehman Russ battle cannons are really good in the Long War. So like, yeah, that's a unit dead. Like,
well, they are only AP3, so you any bodyguard with him, you'd want to have at least a 2-up armor save.
Yeah, so but then there's like various costs and benefits associated with that, right?
Yeah, so you'd have to go something even heavier.
So I don't feel like letting him have a bodyguard is actually bad. I think, actually, given the Long War rule set, like, sure, he's durable, but he's still gonna die quickly. Like, if he's on his own, you just shoot him off the board.
Yeah. No, I get. I'm saying it because like he's what 290 points. You said.
Yeah. 290.
290 points. Like he will actually, be a little bit worried if there's a Baneblade on the other side, because a Baneblade will usually be able to penetrate his armor.
Yep.
And the armor of his companions, so he will have to worry about that.
Baneblade's roughly the same points cost, and will easily chip off, like,
a couple of wounds every turn.
And then you put a lot of bodies between him and the Baneblade.
Yeah, well, unless he outflanks the Baneblade, but, you protect it, I suppose, in that instance.
That's where, strategy comes in. A chief element that is, in my opinion, largely missing from 9th edition, but
yeah,
as we know, games are in the Long War, games are won and lost in 3 different sections of the game. Deployment, the movement phase, and then the other phases. In that order.
Yeah.
So, as strong as he is, I don't believe he's unbalanced. I just believe he's really, really strong. And
yeah, well, by that logic, I guess that is correct. Like, because theoretically a equivalent points costs of units, like 290 points worth of something, could take him out.
Yeah, I mean, so to use an example, right? If he's 290 points, if he ran into 290 points of let's just use another unit from Dark Angel's mirror match against Fallen, right? So say he goes up against
bunch of plasma dudes or something.
Not even that, the Deathwing Knights, or even just Deathwing Terminators in general. They'll fist him to death.
Yeah, because they're all AP 1-2 weapons.
They're all AP 1-2 weapons. They're all hitting at high strength to wound him on 3s. They're gonna hit him on 5s.
And they have the durability, well, sort of. They've got their invul saves at least to sort of protect themselves from
Yeah,
his attacks back,
it's gonna.
and he's not going to be instant deathing them because he's only striking at strength 6.
Yeah, so and they're still getting their invul saves and their feel no pains.
I can't remember. Did you give Terminators 2 wounds in Long War?
Yes, Terminators have 2 wounds.
Yeah, so that's important. The fact that he can't instant death them.
So 290 points. So 245. 290. That's about. It's about 14, 15 wounds worth of Terminators.
So what's that, like 7 or 8
it's like
Terminators?
7 or 8 Terminators.
Yeah, I think that works because as the person who would be building a list and considering bringing him, that's a fairly good chunk of Terminators who, unlike him, can take objectives and whatnot.
Yeah, and he's infantry, right? So he only counts as one model for holding an objective. He can't win you the game.
Yeah, so that's actually a tactical decision you have to make, heaven forbid, when building your list. Like, I don't think he's an auto take, which is always good. Because like if your choice is between him or running 7 or 8 of those powerful Terminators, like that's a real hard decision.
Not only that, as we're going to go look at Gilliman in a moment, so you can see some differences between him and Gilliman. But it's very important to point out, Gilliman has a right of war that lets you actually field him as a HQ choice, surrounded by bodyguards.
Yeah.
Like, to represent, like, his bodyguard formation. The whatever the hell they call it in 40k. I only remember what it's called in 30k. Because I like Ultramarines in 30k.
Oh, we didn't go through his Warlord traits. What do they do?
We're gonna go there. But just to finish rounding off that point, Lionel Johnson can only ever be fielded as a Lord of War.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a right of war to let you field him as a HQ.
Yeah.
So you can't even take him in Shadow of War games. He can only show up to Crusade games. Alright, well, let's go look at these Warlord traits.
That's also good because it means if you want to take him, you still got to pay that HQ tax.
Exactly. And that HQ cannot be a chapter master. So. Now, as for those Warlord traits, he has all 3 of the Dark Angel's exclusive Warlord traits.
Yeah, which is pretty standard for the Long War. Special characters tend to get 2 or more of the Warlord traits available to them. So,
first we have Fury of the Lion. The Warlord in any attached unit can re-roll charges in the charge phase. In addition, friendly Dark Angels units that can draw visibility to him or his attached unit during the phase in which they declared a charge may also re-roll their rolls that phase.
Yeah, I mean, that's powerful, but since he can't just, out deep strike in to point blank and so it's not too bad since he has to walk up the field first.
Yeah, it's a phase of, it's an ability that when it goes off, it's, alright, the lion is charged, everyone else charge, go, 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 go. This is our Riders of Theoden moment.
But is it possible for him to get a turn 1 charge off, since he can technically run and still shoot and charge? I suppose his movement's only 6 inches.
It's only 6 inches, so and his initiative is 6, so he moves 12, and then it's only possible if your opponent deploys exactly at the line, and it's only possible in certain deployments.
Yeah. It's something that can be countered.
It's something that can be countered very easily. In my experience, deploying at the line is something you don't do unless you're a melee army.
Yeah.
Like, it has lost me every game I've done it. Where I wasn't a melee army.
Yeah. Deploying as far forward as you can is usually never a good idea.
No. Deploying as far back as possible is normally better in my experience.
So then he's got Cableite Knight.
Yes.
Always hits on a 3-up in the combat phase unless their weapon skill is higher.
Yeah. So he's a guaranteed 3+, unless he would be hitting them on a 2+.
Yeah, okay.
So his weapon skill makes him really good with weapon skill 9. Makes him really good at bullying low weapon skill characters.
Oh, yeah. That also means he pretty much negates the advantage of the 2 to 3 characters that do out-weapon skill him.
So he's gonna be fighting you. He's gonna be fighting you hard.
Brilliant strategist.
Yes.
At the start of each phase, the warlord trait and the attached unit gain one of the special rules: sprint, preferred, enemy, monster hunter, tank hunter, siege attacker.
Yeah. So sprint 1 is +1 to his run and charge. Preferred enemy is reroll wound rolls of 1. Monster hunter is reroll all wounds against monsters. Tank hunter is reroll all penetrations against vehicles, and siege attacker is reroll all penetrations against bunkers, fortifications,
buildings and fortifications. Yeah.
But he has to pick. He has to pick and choose when he's going to use these.
Yeah. The fact that you can choose at the start of each phase, that's you just always choose sprint 1 at the movement phase and then switch to whichever one you need for the shooting phase.
So sprint 1 is useful, but you might not always want sprint 1, because it might actually not even work with the bodyguard unit you've got. You'll have to consider what you run him with, because if you run him with regular Terminators, you're okay, but you run him with some fancy Terminators that have slow and purposeful, all of a sudden that's pointless. They can't run.
Oh no, I think maybe choosing at the start of each phase might be a bit much.
Well, currently this codex is under review right now, actually. So they've only put out... Long War has only put out his profile today. But this version of this supplement is about to actually be updated. So there's that to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually in the midst of being reviewed. So... Yeah, that is the Lion. 290 points of... Would you say he represents the Lion well?
Yeah, lore-wise, it seems to match everything you told me.
Would you say that this Lion is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than the 9th edition version?
He's definitely stronger, much stronger in his respective rule set.
Because, let's look at the
much more useful too. Like the Long War Lion does more.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. I've noticed this. Like, having looked now at the 9th edition one, he's really just there to be a beat stick. He doesn't do anything else.
Yeah, pretty much.
This Lion supports your army while being a strong fighter at its center.
Yeah.
Which fits, I think, because the Lion was a strategist. He was well versed in all aspects of war.
Yeah. Oh. It's funny because almost all the Primarchs have that said about them at one stage or another.
That's true. I mean, well, they're Primarchs. I mean, if they're not supporting your army, what the hell are they doing? I mean, they're supposed to be the thing that makes a legion or chapter fight at its peak. They're the thing that exemplifies and makes the legion so terrifying.
Yeah.
Without a Primarch, a legion isn't scary. I mean, we can look at the heresy for that. Like, lore-wise. I'm just talking lore-wise. Like, to not have...
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's go compare him now, very quickly, to the Ultramarines, Big Papa G himself.
Alright, so Papa G is 20 points cheaper.
20 points cheaper. He's...
less weapon skill.
6s across the board.
So he's got 1 less point of weapon skill for 1 more point of leadership.
That one extra point of leadership actually comes from his Ultramarines trait.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, he'd just be like 6s across the board and 11.
Yep, he's got his war gear that is basically the Emperor's war gear. A power fist and a sword.
Yep, he's got the Hand of Dominion. I love the Hand of Dominion. I just love saying it. It's great.
He's got the standard Space Marine special rules, Master of Command, which you'd expect, regen, yep, relentless, feel no pain, last stand. So pretty much all the same rules.
Yep. So he's got Innate Shell or No Fear. So he's actually, he'll automatically rally if he, well, he's leadership 12, right? He physically can't fail.
Yeah, so it's kind of a redundant rule.
Yeah. Angels of Death, though, because he's leadership 12, he's always going to be higher leadership, so he'll always be giving Fear 1 to whatever he's in melee with.
Yeah.
Regen, Relentless. Relentless actually helps. He has a heavy weapon. He has a heavy bolter in his arm.
Yep.
Very useful. Last Stand, as we know. So, let's go and have a look at his stuff. So, he's got the Armor of Fate, which is a 2-up, 3-up.
Yep, 3-up invul.
Addition.
And, yep, he's got his regenning when he dies.
Yep, first time he's slain, instead of being removed, he remains where he is with 3 wounds remaining.
Yep, so he stays at half health.
He's Primarch of the 13th, so he's got to be a Warlord. Unit Ultramarines that can draw visibility to him, reroll Pinning and Panic. If this unit is in your army, you ignore the Codex requirement special rule under the Ultramarines Allegiance.
Yeah, because Gilliman has been known to ignore his own rules.
Yeah. So just to clarify for people who don't know, the Ultramarine rule set, what that actually does is, like, they have to take, like, a Codex compliant force of, like, one of each thing, so one of each of the, what do you call them, battlefield roles expressed within the Codex Astartes in the lore.
Yeah.
So he just goes, nah.
Nope, I wrote this book, but I don't believe in it myself.
And then, of course, he ignores instant death and takes D3 wounds in its place.
Yep.
His unique rule is the Avenging Sun. In the combat phase, if the target of a melee attack has a higher weapon skill characteristic, you can increase his weapon skill characteristic to match the target, but all of his attacks are resolved with Gets Hot.
Interesting.
So, he could, match weapon skill with the Lion if they fought, so he'd be hitting the Lion on 4+. The Lion'd still be hitting him on 3+, but he wouldn't be, 6. I mean, it doesn't do a lot in this particular case. But it mostly, for a lot of other duels, would prevent other characters from hitting him on a 3+. So it's actually more of a defensive ability than it is an offensive ability.
Yeah, because you don't hit on 5s in the Long War until you're under half of the weapon skill.
Yeah. So the Lion is actually a real bad example. So, for example, if you took someone like a Bloodthirster whose weapon skill 8, you could use the Avenging Sun special rule to go like, alright, well, I'm going to go from hitting on... You're going to go from hitting me on 3s to hitting me on 4s. Doesn't make a difference for what I'm hitting you on, but it makes a difference to making sure Gilliman doesn't die. So Gilliman's far more defensive than anything else. Which I think you're seeing.
Yeah. And Gets Hot is like, since he's got a 2-up save anyway.
It'll be funny when it fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got his Hand of Dominion, which is a heavy bolter with Mastercrafted pinning.
Yep, so just a regular old heavy bolter.
Yep. Hand of Dominion is a power fist with crushing 4+.
What does that do again?
On each wound roll of a 4+ counts as 2 wounds.
Yeah.
It's AP 2 times 2 strength, so it's strength 12. Hey, that will instant death the Lion.
Yes, that could potentially instant death the Lion, so I guess you'd use that against him.
Yeah. So things like that, weapons like the Hand of Dominion are, yep.
But it
The
is unwieldy, so he's going last.
He's going last, which is great because he's got all those defensive buffs that might keep him alive, barely. He's got Specialist Weapon, and his other weapon doesn't have Specialist Weapon, so it basically means he gets no bonus attacks. He's always 6 attacks.
Yeah.
Plus the one from charging. Then he's got the Sword of the Emperor. So the Sword of the Emperor is very reliable. It's Strength User, which doesn't matter. It's AP 1. It's Bane, so no invulnerable saves can be taken against it at all.
Oof. Yeah.
It's Force 2+, so it always wounds and penetrates on a 2+. And it's Mastercrafted for 1 reroll. So it's a really reliable weapon if you can get Guilliman to hit. But against most things that you want to be hitting with it. So with Guilliman, you have to make the choice between, do you want potential massive damage that's going to be, like, unreliable, but if you get it off, you're going to likely kill whatever you hit? Or do you want lots of reliable little pokes with the Sword of the Emperor?
Yeah. So, I mean, with his defensive abilities, he could try and use the Sword of the Emperor against the Lion and just reliably poke him for 6, or I suppose in the end it would be like 4 or 5 wounds. Actually, no, given he ignores his invul save, it would end up being, well, he's hitting on 4, so yeah, probably about 3 wounds with his 6 attacks.
He's hitting on 3 wounds, then the Lion regens, so it's a bit of a prolonged fight. It's a duel. It's a duel of epic proportions.
Whereas if he uses the Hand of Dominion, he doesn't get to strike at the same time as the Lion.
No, but he has a chance to do more damage. He's more likely to kill him or near kill him.
But in exchange, he's doing an instant death weapon that also inflicts 2 wounds.
Yeah, so what happens is the resolution there is like, so each 4+ is now 2 instant death wounds that have to be resolved.
Yeah, with his 4-up invul save, he's likely to fail 1 and then take D3, which, you know, is average of 2 wounds. So, in that case, the 3 attacks that you'd expect to go through, like the 3 hit rolls you expect to go through, might be enough to kill the Lion if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Or if the Lion's unlucky with his invul save.
But here's the thing, they both have Last Stand.
So either way, he gets a chance to
So
do it.
either way, you're getting an epic clash between these 2 characters if you put them up against each other.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, they'll still both get to fight, which is really cool. Because the 9th edition one, like, if the 2 meet, Guilliman just dies.
Yeah, so either way, whoever comes out of that fight, they're going to be hurting. And probably easier to finish off after they duel in the Long War.
And then Guilliman is infantry as well, so he can have a bodyguard. So they can both have bodyguard fights.
Yeah.
To soak around them. Guilliman, I think, probably needs his bodyguard more. Actually, I'd probably say Guilliman needs his bodyguard less. Because I think the Lion needs his bodyguard to make sure he gets into the fight, whereas Guilliman, the fight comes to him.
Yeah. And then we got his 3 Warlord traits. What do they do?
Alright, so those are 3 Ultramarines ones. So Adept of the Codex. So a model with this Warlord trait always gains the current benefit of the current benefit selected each phase from the Wisdom of the Codex special rule. Even if they are not selected to receive the benefit that phase. So if multiple benefits of the Wisdom of the Codex special rule are selected, the Warlord gains all the benefits active that phase. So I think to explain that, we'll have to go and look at the Ultramarines' Wisdom of the Codex. So Wisdom of the Codex is going to look very familiar to you.
It's the same thing.
But it's got a little bit of it's a little bit different. At the start of each phase in either player turn, you may select a single Ultramarine unit in your army, whereas the Brilliant Strategist only applies to the Lion and his attached unit.
Right, so he gives it out. to other units rather than being focused solely on himself
Yeah,
and
so
those
so
around
so
him.
the lion focuses on himself and his unit coming with him. This one is your army gets this, and so the first of the warlord traits that Gilliman has means that he always gets whichever one you pick, in addition to the other unit, in addition to the unit you would pick to get one.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he's far more generous and army buffing in that regard,
Yeah.
which makes sense for Gilliman. He always was a bit of a army buffer.
Yep, and he's got Master of Strategy, which lets him pick 2 of those benefits per phase.
Okay, that's handy.
So he's doing lots of little buffs to your army and benefiting himself at the same time. And then he's got Calm Under Fire, which him and his warlord, so the warlord and any attached unit always get to Overwatch, even if they made a shooting attack in the shooting phase. However, if the warlord and the attached units did make a shooting attack in their previous shooting phase, they gets hot when performing their Overwatch.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Gilliman's far more defensive, far more a little bit durable with the 3+ invulnerable save and the super regen from the Armor of Fate, but he's a lot more army buffing and a lot less killy. All for 20 points less.
Yeah. They sound pretty good, like pretty evenly matched for Primarchs.
Okay, now I know this is a bit of a trick question since I already know what your answer is, but what? I'm going to ask you a couple questions actually. Firstly, which version of the Lion is your favorite? Or which version of the Lion do you like more?
Like between
Long War and 9th Edition, which one do you like more as a unit in terms of gameplay, in terms of army building, which like rules, which one do you like more?
the Long War one, easy.
Alright. Why?
Well, putting the rule set he's in aside, he like I said before, he feels more useful, like he's more than just a beat stick with a big health bar.
The Lion in 9th Edition doesn't really have a big health bar.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, I just want to explore this a little bit, for critical thought.
Because that's just how 9th Edition works, right? All things in 9th Edition and 8th Edition just feel like health bars that, like in some sort of video game that you just got to get down.
So
he's not a beat. He's Lion in the Long War is far more than just a beat stick. Like he does more for the army overall.
Okay. Now, what do you like from the 9th Edition rules?
What do I like from them?
Yeah, what do you actually like from the 9th Edition rule set? Because let's be fair to the 9th Edition. It's a totally different rule set, so it's never fair to compare them, other than for the sake of comparison. Because one is done by game designers, the other one is done by Games Workshop. So what do you like about Lionel Johnson 9th Edition rule set? And by the way, I'm totally going to make you come back and talk about 10th Edition Lionel Johnson.
What do I like? I'm looking at all these rules and stats that he's got, and nothing actually really stands out as like, it's all pretty much what you'd expect.
Does anything excite you or like, make you go, that's cool, or make you go, that's strong, or like anything in general that like that?
No, but the no hiding from the watchers makes me go, well, that's a bit disappointing given how powerful everything else is.
Right, well, that was actually going to be my next question. Like, what... Because I was going to ask you, what do you like from 9th Edition line? What do you like from Long War line? Like, one thing from each. and then one thing that you don't like from each.
Yeah.
So one thing you don't like from ninth edition Lion is the Warlord trait. Warlord trait's disappointing.
Yeah, it's just kind of bland, but I mean, so is most of the rest of his rules, because it's all just the same rules we've seen again and again from everything else. I suppose his whole shield reflecting mortal wounds back is cute, but I wouldn't say I like it.
Okay. Alright. I think that's the best I'm going to try and get out of you. Because, in terms for me, I have to agree. I think, things I like about, his rule set, in terms of the ninth edition, I like his Armor Luminous.
Yeah, I suppose the gun's pretty cool.
Like, I think it's fucking useless, but I like it. I don't know why.
Here's the thing about it though. I don't even know what this thing looks like.
No, I can't spot it anywhere on the model.
I've never seen it on his model. So what does it look like? Does it look like a combi bolter? Does it look like a combi pistol?
I don't know.
I've never seen a combi pistol before.
I can't. Yeah, that for me is the cool part. Oh, it's a combi pistol.
Yeah, like what does that look like? But I don't know. See it.
I can't see it on his model when I look it up. It's got to be under the cloak somewhere. It might be on the model. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's time to start a long war, Dark Angels army for myself just so I can see.
I like his mustache.
Well, that's critiquing the model. And everyone's got different opinions on the model, and I don't want to get dragged into that. I want to stay firmly on the rule set.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. In terms of
I don't like Forest Walk either.
Okay. Which is worse, Forest Walk or hiding from the Watchers?
In terms of mechanics, hiding from the Watchers is probably worse. In terms of the lore behind it and how it's described, Forest Walk is just silly.
I'll take Lionel Lorax Forest Walking with Warp Shittery over a disappointing Warlord trait. Like, just the name of that Warlord trait tells me that could be so much cooler.
Yeah, like, I like the lore
and
behind it. It's like, ooh, no hiding from the Watchers, because those little fuckers are everywhere. Like that sounds cool. Much cooler than Forest Walk, which is all like, yes, he makes forest mysteriously appear wherever he goes and emerges from. It's like, wow, that's dumb.
Like,
the rule is better. Like,
yeah,
having him being able to deep strike
and then reroll. Like, no hiding from the Watchers. I think their intent was to provide an army buffing rule to make the Lion more than a beat stick, but I don't think they knew how to implement that in an interesting way. So instead, they've gone to something that is just kind of odd, but also generic. Useful, yet useless.
Yeah, well, that's one of the restricting things about 9th edition, isn't it? And 8th edition. Like, there's only so many ways you can make things strong because it's fairly obvious what's strong.
I think that's the same across all editions, including the long one. There's only so many ways you do it, but it's a matter of, like, you always work within your established rule set for when you make rules, and so they've gone to their established rule set and say, well, what can we make the Lion do? Problem is, their established rule set is so focused on beating things health bars that the only other interesting thing they could pick is something that is actually kind of not super relevant, if you know what I mean. It's a case of you've gone and designed a unit using your core design of your rule set, but because your core rule set has some design issues in terms of the principles you applied to it and the theory behind it, you've created a problem rather than fixed one, which is the whole point of game design. You're supposed to identify and then fix it.
I mean, I think you just described 8th and 9th edition right there. They created more problems and every solution just created more problems.
And that's the thing, right? They weren't applying their design principles properly to these things. But I think my statement can be applied to every edition.
Yeah, they have never really been the best at fixing the issues. Like that's true. Like even when you look at like Horus Heresy 2, like the latest incarnation of the old, 5th to 7th edition style, like instead of fixing the problems with Horus Heresy 1, they just created more problems.
Yeah.
And it's like they didn't need to do that. The fixes, if they had bothered to ask the community, were not that difficult to implement, but instead they wanted to make it more interesting, so they added a whole bunch of stuff and created more problems.
Well, like, to take an example for the audience to understand, I think a good majority of our audience play Horus Heresy 2, or at least familiar with it. In terms of design, right, in terms of game design, so they've looked at Horus Heresy 1, and they've gone, alright, there is a design issue with blast weapons and AP2 weapons removing specific units too fast, or faster than we intended in our design. Now, they've identified a solution, or they've identified the problem, and then they've developed a solution. But there's more to this design principle, right? Because this is the general elements of game design. They've identified it, and they've put in two solutions that they've hypothesized will fix it. Heavy and reducing AP. But then, once you do that, you start again at the top. You don't just do this once. You do it repeatedly after testing whether or not the solution works. And what's happened is the solution hasn't fixed the problem. It's created a whole new one. Because now, instead of things, dying a little bit slower, they just don't die. Which is the opposite of what you were intending to do. And so game design is find the problem, identify how the problem works, identify a possible solution, apply the solution, test, start again from the top.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's a bit of a tangent, because I want to go back to the lion. So,
isn't a common conspiracy theory in the Horus Heresy 2 community right now that they never actually tested it?
I think it's a little bit more than a conspiracy, but I'm not willing to, go out on that with unconfirmed sources. It's more than a theory, I'll say that in my personal belief, but everyone has different beliefs, and we don't know the truth. The only people who know the truth are the testers themselves, and I don't trust any of them as far as I can throw them.
Yeah.
Because anyone who tests rules for Games Workshop, I don't know whether to pity you or hate you, and that's the problem. I don't know. So, but returning to the topic of the video, the lion, Lion El Lorax. I'll keep saying it until someone laughs. Okay. One thing that you like about the lion, one thing you don't like about the lion. Long War version.
A long war version?
Yes.
So I like his special rule, the Lion of Caliban. I think that actually is very fluffy and plays into the lore you told me about, how he's like a monster slayer. So a rule like that makes him wound harder against things that are basically monsters for the most part that makes a lot of sense. And it's not too broken against such things that it completely reshapes the game.
One thing you don't like.
One thing I don't like? I'm a little unsure about him gaining the benefits of the Deathwing special rule.
Huh. Alright, so...
I feel that requires some testing.
Well, fortunately, the Long War is never averse to actually testing things and changing things as people get to play, and with the model becoming available soon, at least in other countries, that chance will actually come up. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I'd be curious to see how that plays, because on
so from
brain theorying it
mm,
in my head, it sounds like it might push him a little bit too far in terms of his points value, but then again, it might not. So yeah, I feel like it needs testing.
yeah, for me, one thing that I like
Oh,
his warlord traits and how they combine with his unit.
there is one other thing I don't like, but it's more something I don't like for both of them.
For both of them, yeah.
Oh well, sorry, it's something that I don't like for both of the Primarchs in Long War, and it's just me personally. I don't like regeneration on these characters, but you can work around it. It's just a nitpick. It's annoying, but it's not a huge deal.
I mean, they all have regeneration equivalents in Horus Heresy. You just have to roll for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the warlord traits and how they interact with his unit as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with that. It
And
is cool.
and how they make him
Particularly,
more than just a beat stick. They make him a really
yeah,
multifaceted unit. And because if he's in
yeah,
your army, he has to be your warlord. You get this sense of the Primarch is here. Now the Legion, the chapter, fights as intended. This is them at
yeah,
max power with a Primarch at
yeah,
their head.
yeah.
What I don't like, I actually agree with you. I don't like the Deathwing and Ravenwing, on him. I also, but more than that, comparatively, I actually don't like something more.
Hmm.
I don't like the Shield of the Emperor. Not because its rules are bad, but because it's out of place with the rest of this model and unit. He doesn't need it.
Yes, that is true. I was gonna say there's something I don't like on his model more than anything, but yeah,
In terms of rules design, he doesn't need it, but because he has it, it has to do something, and it has to do something not redundant.
yeah,
So that's actually the thing I don't like. Like if I was in charge of actually designing the entire model, I would tell them to leave the shield off.
yeah,
I would say leave the shield off, and he doesn't need rules for it, and he doesn't need it on his model. It's not needed. Like, and I think you should go look at the the Horus Heresy Lion sculpt. That is a fantastic sculpt.
it is. It really is.
It's
A
like,
beautiful
does
model.
he need a shield? No, because his entire sword style is about giant fuck off great swords in heavy knight themed armor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, that's just being fair and critical. It's always fair and critical to go look at your own work. Because we are involved with the Long War, we don't deny that. Yeah. All right, so I think at this stage we've said everything we want to say about these Primarchs and their rules. I'll quickly ask you: do you like anything about Bobby G?
Um, yeah, actually, I think you've made him actually pretty cool, and he has a place in the army from a rules perspective. Do I like Bobby G the character?
No,
No, not
no,
really.
no. Hey, let me put it this way: if these characters didn't have lore associated with them, which one would you prefer to field?
uh, like
So you're going
in
into the Long War. I've given you a fully built like Ultramarines army or a fully built Dark Angels army, and I've said you get to pick one of these to use today. And one of them has Bobby G, one of them has the Lion. which Primarch would you prefer to field in a game?
Uh, Probably. I hate myself for saying this, but probably Bobby G.
It's Bobby G's support power, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because I've never been hugely into playing armies that focus around a single character beat sticking everything to death. Like I prefer to play armies with strategies and tactics, and Bobby G gives me that more than Lion does. I mean, Lion still gives it to to me, especially in the long war, but Bobby G does it a bit better.
Hmm. Hmm.
I could see myself doing all sorts, being able to accomplish all sorts of interesting strategies with Bobby G that I couldn't do with the Lion.
I would actually pick Bobby G as well.
And you know he's cheaper, so I'm probably going to get more models in that army.
Whole 20 points. That's like a marine and a quarter.
Fun. I'll end up with more upgrades, so my troops will just be better in
That's
general.
true. 20 points. That's a las cannon.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would pick Bobby G as well. Out of mostly the same reasons, I've never been one who really loves, like putting all my eggs into one basket. I would play with the Lion, no doubt, but the Lion and the Dark Angels have never been my forte. Which is, like, I say to you, I don't like putting my eggs into basket. And I don't like doing Hero Hammer, but I have Space Wolves, right? So like, and that's the epitome of superhero hammer. Lion,
Yeah.
Lion for me, he's too much in between. I either want to go one extreme or the other.
But here's the thing: even though I said that, if you just asked me, like, would I rather play Ultramarines or Dark Angels, like, or you have to start one of these two armies, which one would you pick? I would probably pick the Dark Angels because they're just more interesting than Ultramarines.
Ironically, I would pick the same thing, actually, if you said I
Uh,
had to pick to start an army of these.
That's probably why I have neither.
It's probably why. Yeah, I don't have any Dark Angels left. I repurposed them all into Chaos. So, yeah. Alright. Well, I hope this video has been interesting for everyone. Now, of course, the Long War is constantly being updated. It's currently in the middle of a mass update, so at the time of filming this, these rules are currently under review, a mass community and testing review in the Long War community. So some stuff may or may not change. This is all based on what these rules are right now at the time of us filming this. And, of course, everyone, 10th edition is going to drop in 3 months, so, the Lions rules will be defunct then as well, so, So, I have been, Jay from Jade Productions and T from Jade Productions as well. Thank you for coming on. We normally play Warhammer together. I don't very often get T on to talk, in some of the other videos, though.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so next video we're gonna go through Demon Primarchs.
Yay.
I don't know when that'll be. I'm half joking. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've watched so far, have a pleasant day, evening, whatever. Chill out, mates, and throw another shrimp on the barbie while you paint some more hammer. All right.